Have you ever felt drawn to someone for no logical reason, as if your soul recognized a face your mind had never seen? That's not coincidence. It's the whisper of destiny moving through time, arranging the invisible before your eyes can perceive it. God weaves connections in dimensions unseen, long before the first word is spoken. Every meeting that shifts your life begins as a divine thought in His heart. There are people you meet who feel like answers, like chapters you were always meant to read. You feel their presence before they arrive, and when they do, something in you exhales, as if a missing piece has quietly returned home. But this isn't about romance alone. It's about divine orchestration. God connects souls not merely for companionship, but for transformation. Some are sent to awaken your strength, others to teach you love that doesn't fade when seasons change. When God aligns two destinies, it isn't chance, it's timing. You couldn't have met them before, because neither of you was ready. Heaven protects divine connections from premature encounters. Every delay, every silence, every almost was intentional. He was aligning both hearts with His purpose. You'll know the difference between a divine meeting and a distraction, because divine ones carry peace, not confusion. They pull you closer to God, not away. These are the people who touch your life and make you remember who you were created to be. So if you've ever wondered why certain souls cross your path so powerfully, know this: heaven does not waste encounters. The people God sends into your life are mirrors of His love, guides for your growth, and vessels for His promises. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, like this video, and share in the comments how God has ever used someone to awaken something divine in you. Before your eyes ever meet, your souls already remember. There's a sacred familiarity that defies explanation, a quiet knowing that doesn't come from logic, but from eternity. Some connections aren't created in the moment, they're remembered. They're the echo of divine design, where two spirits were written into each other's stories long before time began. When God decides that two paths will intertwine, the spirit feels it first, a magnetic pull that transcends distance, reason, and circumstance. This recognition isn't loud. It doesn't come wrapped in fireworks or emotional chaos. It arrives as calm recognition, like stepping into a room you've never seen but somehow calling it home. That's how God allows two souls to identify one another, not through appearance, but through resonance. Their frequencies align, their prayers overlap, and something unseen begins to awaken. You may feel it as an unexplainable peace when you're near them, or as a pull that lingers even when you try to ignore it. It's not obsession, it's remembrance. Heaven doesn't rush divine connections. It nurtures them. Sometimes you'll sense a soul before it physically enters your life through dreams, intuition, or random moments that feel like déjà vu. That's God's way of preparing your spirit for what's coming. These encounters are not about possession, but purpose. The recognition happens because your missions complement one another. You're not meeting by accident, you're meeting by appointment. You carry something that activates something in them, and they carry something that awakens you. God aligns your energies so that both of you grow closer to Him through each other. That's why these meetings feel sacred. You don't need to force understanding, define the connection, or make sense of it. Just trust that God has orchestrated this alignment for reasons your mind can't yet grasp. When your soul recognizes another, it's a sign that heaven is beginning a new chapter in your story, one that may not be simple, but will always be significant. Let this truth sink in. God doesn't allow two souls to recognize each other unless there's something eternal to remember. Comment below. I trust God's timing. When God connects two souls, it isn't merely for comfort, it's for calling. Divine connections are never random. They are assignments woven into destiny. You can feel it when it happens. It's as if every dream, every wound, and every lesson you've carried suddenly makes sense in the presence of the other person. You're not just meeting someone, you're meeting a mirror of your mission. God doesn't unite people because they are perfect for each other in personality. He joins them because their purposes complement one another in eternity. When two people are walking toward the same divine horizon, their steps begin to align effortlessly. Their conversations ignite vision, not vanity. Their bond awakens purpose, not dependency. You will notice that you don't need to chase connection. It flows naturally, guided by the same spirit working through both hearts. When your purpose aligns with someone else's, there's an ease that feels sacred. You begin to inspire each other's obedience. You start praying not just for your own growth, but for theirs too. This is how heaven forges partnerships that multiply light, two flames that burn brighter together without consuming one another. This alignment is subtle but unmistakable. Your dreams start to echo the same themes. You feel urged to serve, create, and grow in ways you hadn't imagined before. That's the fingerprint of divine purpose. It doesn't drain you. It develops you. It draws you closer to God, not further away. Sometimes purpose alignment means letting go of superficial attraction to recognize spiritual assignment. God may send someone not to stay forever, but to push you into destiny, to awaken gifts that were dormant. And when both people are surrendered to God's will, love becomes more than emotion. It becomes mission. So, if you've met someone whose vision mirrors yours, whose prayers echo your own, whose presence reawakens your purpose, honor it. You're witnessing the orchestration of heaven in real time. This isn't coincidence, it's covenant. Pause and reflect. The strongest connections aren't built on attraction, but on assignment. Comment softly if you feel this truth. I trust the purpose God is aligning in my life. When God is orchestrating a connection, He rarely shouts, He whispers. His fingerprints appear in patterns, in symbols, in gentle repetitions that echo through your days until you finally pay attention. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Heaven speaks through alignment. You might notice a name that keeps appearing, a phrase that seems to follow you, a song that surfaces when your heart is seeking clarity. That is God's quiet language, the divine rhythm that tells your spirit, this is not random, I am speaking. Divine signs often feel like soft nudges, a dream that lingers longer than it should, a stranger's words that answer a private prayer. A number sequence that catches your eye at the perfect moment. The more you attune your heart, the more you realize that God doesn't need thunder to communicate. He only needs your stillness. When your soul is aligned with His will, even silence becomes revelation. But discernment is sacred. Not every sign is divine, and not every coincidence is confirmation. The enemy can mimic timing. Emotion can distort perception. That's why God pairs His signs with peace. His guidance never creates confusion. It anchors your heart in calm, assurance. The moment a sign begins to fuel fear or obsession, step back. True guidance never demands control. It invites surrender. When two destinies are being connected, confirmations will come to both hearts in harmony. You won't need to chase validation. It will find you in unexpected places, reaffirming that heaven is weaving something precise. And if the signs ever pause, it doesn't mean the connection has vanished. It means God is inviting you to trust without constant reassurance. Listen, watch, but above all, rest. Because when God truly wants to make something known, He repeats it, gently, patiently, until your spirit finally understands. Comment below, I see God's signs. When God is the author of a connection, it never begins in chaos. Divine alignment doesn't rush, confuse, or demand explanation. It arrives clothed in peace. You can feel it in your spirit before you can explain it with your mind. Where anxiety once lived, calm begins to settle. You don't need to chase validation, because the bond itself becomes evidence. That's how you know it's from God. Peace replaces panic, clarity replaces confusion, and stillness replaces the need to control. When you meet someone God has aligned with your destiny, something within you exhales. You stop performing, you stop proving, you simply are. The energy feels balanced, like two rivers merging without turbulence, like recognition without fear. That serenity isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. Because divine. Love is not built on the urgency of need, but on the rhythm of grace. This peace doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean every day will be effortless, or that you'll never face trials. It means that even when storms arise, the connection doesn't feed the storm, it calms it. You sense that no matter what happens externally, your soul remains grounded. God-centered bonds don't create chaos. They call forth calm. Many mistake excitement for connection, but divine alignment rarely feels like adrenaline. It feels like home. It's not a spark that burns quickly. It's a steady flame that never demands to be noticed. It simply lights your way. And while worldly love often thrives on intensity, divine love thrives on peace, a peace that confirms you don't have to force what I have already ordained. So if you find yourself constantly anxious, doubting, or chasing reassurance, pause and ask, is this from God or from my own fear? Because what He sends will not drown you in uncertainty. It will anchor you in rest. Peace is the signature of heaven. Every connection authored by God will carry it like a fragrance, gentle, constant, unmistakable. Every divine connection has a season, and that season is guarded by time. You cannot rush what heaven is still preparing. The waiting you despise is often the soil where your readiness grows. God doesn't delay to punish. He delays to protect what is sacred from immaturity. When He connects two destinies, both hearts must be healed enough to hold what He intends to give. In our impatience, we often mistake preparation for punishment. You pray, you hope, you wonder why nothing seems to move. But in unseen places, God is aligning details you cannot yet perceive. He's healing wounds you haven't faced, refining desires that were still too small, and teaching both hearts how to love without fear. The connection He's building isn't fragile, it's eternal. That's why it requires patience, because what is timeless cannot be built in haste. Waiting is not emptiness, it's instruction. It teaches you to discern the difference between craving and calling, between loneliness and longing. It transforms your focus from seeking someone to seeking God first. Because when your fulfillment is rooted in Him, your relationships stop being cages and become covenants. You are not waiting for a person. You are waiting for alignment. The right one is not simply chosen. They are prepared, just as you are being prepared. God's timing is not slow, it is precise. When both hearts are ready, paths converge naturally, effortlessly. The meeting will not require striving, only recognition. So instead of asking, when will it happen? Begin asking, who am I becoming while I wait? The waiting is not delaying your destiny, it's defining it. You are being shaped into the version of yourself who can sustain the connection when it finally arrives. Remember, what comes too early can break what was meant to bless. Trust that the God who promised knows the perfect moment to reveal what He's been preparing. The wait is not silence, it is strategy. When God brings two souls together, it is never simply for comfort. It is for calling. Divine love does not exist in isolation. It expands purpose. It isn't a refuge from the world, but a reflection of heaven's work on earth. The love God authors is not self-centered, it's mission-centered. It exists to multiply light, strengthen faith, and extend compassion. Two hearts become one not just to feel whole, but to serve whole. The world teaches love as possession, but God teaches love as partnership. When he connects two destinies, he intends for their union to become a channel of his will, not a distraction from it. You'll notice that divine connections awaken spiritual hunger. Together you pray differently. You dream differently. You see each other not just through affection, but through assignment. That is how heaven builds covenants that echo beyond emotion. When love is aligned with divine purpose, it matures instead of consuming. It pushes you closer to obedience, not temptation. It heals the wounds that once made you settle for less. It reminds you that you were never meant to find identity in someone else, but to reflect God's image together. This kind of love makes you bolder, freer, humbler, because you finally understand that real intimacy is not built on dependency, but on destiny. Such a relationship will often stretch you. It will call you higher, requiring forgiveness when pride would rather resist, and faith when fear wants to flee. It's not always easy, but it is always sacred. Every act of love becomes an act of worship. Every challenge becomes a chance to reveal the grace of God through your response. If you are praying for this kind of connection, ask not only for love, ask for alignment. Because purpose sustains what passion alone cannot. The person God joins to your destiny will not only hold your heart, they will guard your calling. Comment below, I'm ready for divine love. There are bonds too deep for this lifetime to explain. Some connections don't begin, they return. They carry the quiet weight of something remembered, something promised long before your first breath. When God connects two destinies, it often feels like a reunion of souls that were always meant to find each other again, not because of karma, but because of covenant. In the eternal mind of God, time does not separate purpose. It only prepares it. You may feel it in that instant recognition, the kind that doesn't require introduction. Their presence feels familiar, like hearing a melody you forgot you knew. It's not fantasy, it's fulfillment. God is faithful not only to promises made in your lifetime, but to those spoken over generations. He ties destinies across seasons, restoring what was delayed, healing what was broken, redeeming what seemed lost. Sometimes, two people have walked parallel paths through pain, learning the same lessons in different places until finally their roads converge at the divine intersection of readiness. That's when the promise manifests, not in the longing of desperation, but in the maturity of surrender. You meet again, but this time with healed hearts, open hands, and eyes that can finally see what God was always building. The reunion of divine souls isn't about reliving old emotions. It's about completing unfinished assignments. Heaven brings people back not to repeat history, but to redeem it. Every wound becomes wisdom, every delay becomes preparation, every silence becomes soil for something eternal to bloom. And even if this connection doesn't look like your expectations, even if it takes a new form, trust that God's promises never expire. He fulfills them through people, through moments, through grace that transcends understanding. When divine timing meets divine memory, what was once lost returns as light, refined, restored, and renewed. The hardest part of divine connection is not recognizing it, it's releasing control over it. When God begins to weave two destinies together, our human instinct is to hold on, to shape, to ensure the outcome. But divine love cannot be forced into form, it must be surrendered into flow. The moment you try to command what heaven is orchestrating, you begin to carry a weight that was never yours. Surrender is not weakness. It is wisdom. It's the acknowledgement that the same God who wrote the beginning of this story already knows its perfect end. When you release the need to control, peace returns. You stop asking, what if it doesn't work, and start whispering, even if it doesn't, I trust God's will. This is the maturity of faith, when you no longer chase outcomes, but align with obedience. Because love rooted in purpose doesn't demand certainty, it breathes in trust. Surrender means allowing God to decide the rhythm, the distance, the timing. It means loving without clinging, giving without expecting, believing without conditions. Sometimes surrender will look like silence, like unanswered messages or paths diverging for a season, but even then God is moving. What looks like pause is often protection. What feels like ending may be preparation. This level of release doesn't happen in a single moment. It's a daily offering. Each time you let go of fear, of overthinking, of needing to understand, heaven fills the space with grace. The connection no longer becomes about control, but about calling. You begin to realize that your peace does not depend on the outcome, but on your alignment with the one who ordained it. So breathe deeply. You are not losing anything that belongs to you. If it's part of God's design, it will return, renewed and ready. And if it doesn't, it was only meant to guide you closer to Him. Because surrender doesn't end the story. It lets the author write it freely. Everything that is born of heaven unfolds without haste. Divine love never arrives early, because early would mean incomplete. It comes when your soul has healed enough to receive without fear, to give without losing itself, to stay without striving. God doesn't let true love bloom until the soil of your heart can sustain it, not as an escape, but as an extension of wholeness. That's why He separated, refined, and reshaped you first. He wasn't delaying love, He was deepening you for it. When the right time comes, there will be no confusion, no games, no emotional turbulence. The person who is meant to walk beside you will not awaken your insecurities. They will affirm your peace. You won't need to question if it's divine, because the presence of God will rest upon it like sunlight over still water. Love in its divine form feels like worship, not because you idolize the other, but because together you reflect His image more clearly. You'll realize then that everything you lost was never punishment. It was pruning. Every heartbreak was a holy preparation. Every unanswered prayer was God's protection, keeping you from settling for less than what He had ordained. When love finally arrives, you'll thank Him for every delay, every detour, every lonely night that carved space for something pure to enter. This love will not be loud or restless. It will be steady, anchored in faith, patient in process. It won't demand to be seen. It will quietly endure, rooted in grace. It will remind you that what is meant by God cannot be missed, and what isn't meant cannot be forced. So stand in peace. Keep your heart open, your faith unshaken, and your spirit expectant. When God writes the love story, timing is not an obstacle. It's part of the miracle. Before you go, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Leave a comment of gratitude for what God is preparing in your life. And stay close, because the next message will continue what heaven has begun in you.